everybody, it's Charisma of Charisma's Corner, and we're in the little pink barn again. I'm just so excited to be with you again this week to share another tutorial with you. I have to apologize because this is actually, I want to finish a series that I started a few years ago in my last studio before I moved. I had no idea really that when I moved, where I would be moving, what condition the house would be when I moved, how long anything would take, and it just turned out to be that we moved 2.5 hours from where I lived before, and we had to renovate the pink barn to be my studio, and I didn't really have a place to do any tutorials. We've had really spotty internet and downloading anything. We finally got Starlink. Anyways, the whole long drawn out story for part 2 and 3 of So Fun. So I just want to say I'm so sorry, but I still wanted to finish it because I like to finish a UFO. I don't like to leave things half done, and I just don't feel like that's fair to you or to me. And anybody who wants to make this in the future and they found part 1 but didn't come across part 2 and part 3. So getting all of that aside, let's go ahead and start with the blocks. We're going to do 4 blocks today. We're going to do the S, the E, the W, and the heart. And then part 3 will be the fun and the house. So we have a lot to get through. Let's get started. So we're going to start with the S, and we have a bunch of stitch and flip pieces here. We have all of the sizes of the strips and cuts that you need to make are in the pattern. This is what the pattern looks like, and you can find it in my shop at charismascorner.com, and I'll have a link to that in the description box. It's a little wall hanging. It's 42 by 42. So we'll go ahead and kind of get this laid out properly. Okay, and now we have all of our pieces laid out, and we're going to go ahead and just do those stitch and flip triangles first, and then we can start sewing our pieces together, and you can start to see how that S forms. So we'll start with the top and just work our way down. And we're just sewing on that diagonal line that we marked, right on the line. Okay, and the way to check to see if we did this right is to go ahead and just flip those over before you cut it to make sure that the angles are correct. And yes, they are. Doesn't hurt to double check. And the nice thing about this pattern is that it is fat quarter friendly. So I was able to make this whole quilt using a tulip pink handmade bundle of fabric, which I know now is not really on the market, but at the time that I started this, it was. Sorry. So now we're going to press each one of these little pieces, and then we'll start sewing the rows together. Okay, so we'll start sewing these together. And since we're not going over any seams, I'm just going to go ahead and sew these two together and then add the last row on. Okay, great, and we have an S. And there's our S. We're going to go ahead and put that over on the design wall. Really starting to come together. And now we'll do the E. And the E should be fairly simple. Again, we'll lay all of this out. Okay, now that we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and press that, and then we'll add the back. Okay, so now we have our block done. I'm just going to go ahead and go over and press it. And look at that, we have the E. So we'll go ahead and add that to the design wall. And now we have the W. And the W is a little bit trickier just because it has some paper piecing pieces. And you just have to keep the color order. And again, there's a test square on that. Okay, so we have stitch and flip. And then we have our two paper piecing pieces. And just in case you get confused, there's where it's dark is where you're supposed to put color, and where it's white, you just put the background. And it's the opposite for each of these because that is what is needed for color and background, okay? So this is a bigger piece. I'm just doing this so that it covers the whole thing. And then I'm going to fold on this line. That's the trickiest part about doing paper piecing, is that very first seam line. So I just want to make sure I cut that. I know that my whole center piece is covered with that fabric. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my strip of colored fabric, and I'm going to match it up where I have trimmed it, okay? And then we're going to sew directly on that black line between 1 and 2. And go ahead and sew all the way, I'll show you. Okay, so I stopped right there at the point. So when I sew my next one on, I'll do that whole seam from dashed line to dashed line. But this first one, I only sewed from the corner of that dashed box to the tip of this point. Now we're going to go ahead and press this. And now I'm going to fold number 3, the line between number 1 and number 3. And this is where a good add a quarter ruler comes in handy. I don't have one. Well, I do. I just can't find it. It's probably still packed somewhere. And I'm just going to add a quarter of an inch from that fold line, because that's my guide to show me where I add that next piece of fabric. So I'm going to fold that out, bring this back in, and line it up exactly where that other piece of fabric is. And then we're going to sew again on that straight line, and this time we get to take the whole seam. And you can see how that comes out, and I'm going to go ahead and press this. So now I'm just going to cut on that dashed line. You can line up your ruler on the solid black line, and then the dashed line is the cut line, because that's exactly a quarter of an inch away from the size of piece that we need for this. And you can also go ahead and adjust your stitch length if you need to. I did not. They're just small pieces. There's not very many. And I am not having to go over a bunch of different seams. So I'm not going to have any problems ripping the paper off. But, and you can also use paper specifically for paper piecing if you'd prefer. I just used printer paper. Okay, here's our first piece. I'm just going to go ahead and rip those off now. That one goes there. And it's the same exact process for the second one. We just have to use different colors. Okay, and now we have the middle of our W there. So I'll go ahead and sew that little chevron together. And then I'll go ahead and sew that background piece to the top, and we'll have our middle section done. Okay, and now for these, we're just doing the same exact thing. We're doing stitch and flip. So we're just sewing directly on that marked line. Okay, so I've sewed on that marked line, and I just want to check this to make sure that they're facing the right way, and it looks like they are. So now I can trim those. And now we have our two little legs here. And look at there, a W. We have our word sew. And now we're going to do our little heart that goes in the middle here. And again, that is paper pieced. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim some of this off. Okay, so it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is the order that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out number 1, and sometimes you have to look on the back to, I'm just gonna go ahead and fold this. You have to kind of look on the back to see. Okay, so I folded those two, and now I know I can fit that in between there. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and line up my number 2. And we'll go ahead and sew on that line. So we just want to, we can sew the whole line, but we're going to go ahead and, I think we'll stop there because we'll catch that seam allowance in that last one. And now we have number 3. So I'll fold that, cut my 1/4 inch so we know where to line it up. Okay, that worked out pretty well. And now number 4 is this little triangle in the corner. Okay, now we're at number 5. So I'll go ahead and fold that line. We've already folded that line 1 time. I'll go ahead and trim this up. Right sides together. Now we have to do number 7. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's going to work to cover things. Okay, we just did number 7, so now we need to do number 8, which again is this another little heart in this corner here. So we're folding that down. And now we have number 9. And I have this big triangle to add here. So that should be plenty large enough. You can see it overhangs, and we still have to trim this, so that should be fine. Now we're at number 10, which is the last seam. Look at how easy this was to put together. Trim that. Now we have our 1/4 inch. You have to love paper piecing. It's so accurate. And we sewed that whole line from dashed line to dashed line. And there we are. Okay, now we have our little heart. We have our heart, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim that block up. Then we'll rip off the papers and add it to our design wall. Okay, now we're going to add that to the design wall. It is coming together so great. I'm so pleased with it. And this is the second video of the 3-part series. So the third part and the last part that shows you how to get all of the blocks done will be posted next week. So thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have so much fun. Bye.